Brittany Griner is a political prisoner. She's black, and she's openly gay, and she's a WNBA player. This situation requires nuance. They don't want to make her seem more valuable. We're talking about Brittany Griner.
Exactly. We're talking about BG.
The only answer is through public outcry. You're dealing with a dictator.
Why are so many U.S. conservatives coming to Hungary?
I don't know why, but I know that it's dangerous.
The U.S. Republican Party has been all talk and no action. When you have power, you have to use it.
Viktor Orban is a prime minister who's used undemocratic tactics to maintain power. So you're coming here to learn a new conservatism?
I think it could be a winning model for Republicans.
In the WNBA also play overseas. But this year, one of the top American players in the EuroLeague is sitting in a Russian jail.
ABC News has learned that WNBA player and two-time USA gold medalist Brittany Griner is detained in Russia for allegedly having vape cartridges. Russia's main state-run news channel is now showing this photo.
Seven-time WNBA All-Star and 2014 champion Brittany Griner was arrested on drug charges in the Moscow airport on February 17th. Her arrest came just as the world was bracing for the invasion of Ukraine. But weeks passed before Russian officials announced her detainment.
В отношении гражданки США возбуждено уголовное дело. Контрабанда наркотических средств в значительном размере.
You know, I've played with BG overseas, and you know, I was scared for her. My stomach dropped. You know, I teared up. It hit hard, and it hit hard because it literally could have been any of us.
Brianne January and Kayla McBride have played with and against Griner over the last decade, both at home and abroad.
We are constantly coming into different countries, and you know, we're here by ourselves, and it just brings us back to, you know, why she was in that situation.
Can you talk a little bit about why so many WNBA players do play overseas in the off-season?
It comes with playing professional women's basketball, just to supplement income. That's the hardest thing to think about, is that she feels like she has to still be over here.
We're talking about Brittany Griner. Like,
exactly. We're talking about BG. We're talking about, you know, like, All-Star, you know, USA gold Olympians. Like, it's crazy to think that she feels like she still has to go over there. This all could have been avoided if we could stay home and make a living in the W.
Slam dunk Brittany Griner.
The average WNBA player makes about $120,000 a year in a career that only lasts a few years. Playing abroad lets them make the most of their earning potential. Griner is a top talent, earning the WNBA's max salary of $228,000. But UMMC Ekaterinburg, where she's played since 2014, reportedly pays her $1 million a year. She was arrested while returning to Russia to play. At the direction of the State Department, the WNBA stayed relatively quiet during the first few weeks of her incarceration.
The word among Women's Basketball League is that the players should not make a, quote, big fuss.
It was very important for us to be intentional about doing the best thing to ensure that we don't compromise her coming home.
Obviously, we're in a very complex geopolitical situation with Russia, Ukraine. Obviously, we're getting a ton of support from the government, and I know the players have been amazing at following the advice that they're getting and we're getting in order not to jeopardize her safety in any way.
With limited facts, the motivation behind Griner's arrest became the subject of intense media speculation.
What a coincidence. It's just now, during this war, that they are detaining her and finding something.
The Russians are notorious for planting
drugs, a black woman over 6 feet tall, of queer identity, high dangerous stakes for Brittany. We have to get this sister home.
I think the fact that we've seen this escalation, the declaration of war in Ukraine, and the American, response to that, all of these could exacerbate her case. Kimberly St. Julian Barnon is a researcher at the University of Pennsylvania who has studied the history of race relations in the Soviet Union. Do you think that the way it's been covered in American media, that there was kind of just this automatic knee-jerk reaction or assumption that she was being treated differently because of her identity? Within a week, everyone was kind of talking about, okay, she's black and she's openly gay and she's a WNBA player. They kind of put all of her identities together. What worried me was she's a political pawn and this is all a scam. And I'm like, we can't say things like that when we don't have any information about her case. This situation requires nuance. And so a lot of people have said, well, if this was Tom Brady or, another famous white athlete, we would, be sending in the troops. And that's not true. America has always been very careful with how it deals with Americans that are in Russian custody. The process has kind of always been allow the Russian legal process to work. The fact that they released her mugshot and a video of the search at the airport, what does that tell you about how they might be handling her? What message might they be trying to send by releasing that? I think it is proof of life. And I think the video of her going to the courtroom and you see she's well dressed, she's clean, her hair is done. All those are Russia strategically releasing information to show she's okay and we're not mistreating her because they know American eyes are on them. And I think social media, especially Black Twitter, has helped keep profile on her. And I think that's something people need to remember. This isn't a TV show. This is the next 5 to 10 years of her existence that could be in a Russian prison cell. The Russian legal system differs greatly from the US. Most cases never see a jury and are decided solely by a judge. Griner was arrested under broadly written drug laws that have been aggressively used to target journalists and political activists and often carry lengthy sentences. Sergei Davidis led the Political Prisoner Support Program at Memorial Human Rights Center in Moscow. Davidis fled at the onset of the war in Ukraine. Can you walk us through what Brittany is up against as far as how her case will play out?
Российскому судье достаточно гораздо меньших оснований для того, чтобы счесть человека виновным. Защита гораздо более ограничена в возможностях собирать и предоставлять доказательства.
Do you believe Brittany Griner is being held as a political prisoner?
Everything became possible after Putin decided to assault Ukraine. Today we see a lot of unpredictable things. Usually somebody has these cartridges. I do not think that they're searching for them in the luggage, especially when it's a high-level sport person. They did it intentionally, obviously. So I think there are some political motivation.
Whenever an American is detained anywhere in the world, we of course stand ready to provide every possible assistance, and that includes in Russia.
In 2020, following the death of a CIA agent in Iranian custody, the U.S. codified when the government can pursue the release of its citizens being held abroad. Typically, the U.S. allows the Russian legal system to run its course. But on May 3rd, the State Department officially designated Griner as being wrongfully detained.
Our son was taken prisoner by Russia because of his service to this president and the former president.
One of the only other recent high-profile detainments in Russia was former Marine and presidential guard Trevor Reed.
Trevor is sick. He's really sick. Probably has an active case of TB, possibly a broken rib. We need to get our son home so that he can get medical care and he can get back on with his life.
Reed was arrested in 2019 after a drunken incident involving an alleged assault on a police officer in Moscow. He was convicted in July of 2020 and sentenced to 9 years in prison. The State Department called his trial, quote, theater of the absurd. Over the last 3 years, the Reeds tirelessly campaigned for his release.
I spent 14 months in Moscow for my son's trial. So we've seen the prisons. I've been at the prisons at all times of day and night, the pre-detention centers, which are horrible.
And that's where she's at.
And that's nothing compared to the prison camp that, she will end up in.
So do you think being as vocal as you all have been and coming out and demonstrating in front of the White House has led to any progress?
We're not sure, but we're hoping so.
We believe the only answer is a prisoner trade, and the only way to get that done, especially now, is through public outcry.
Just a few weeks after we spoke, the Biden administration was able to secure Reed's freedom in exchange for Konstantin Yaroshenko, a Russian held in U.S. prison since 2011. In a scene reminiscent of the Cold War, the two crossed paths on the tarmac as they headed back to their respective countries. In one of the only public comments made since Griner's arrest, her wife Sherelle took to Instagram the day Reed was released to celebrate his return. We've heard that the strategy is they don't want to make her seem more valuable, right? And make it more difficult to get her home. What do you think about that?
Well, we kind of thought the same thing with Trevor having been a presidential guard, but it doesn't really matter. He's an American, and that right there makes him valuable. And so she's valuable to them no matter what because she's an American.
It's up to each family and each individual how they handle the situation. We just want her family to know that it's not that we can imagine what she's going through. We pretty much know what she's going through.
We know what she's going through. It's a horrible thing.
After designating Griner as wrongfully detained, the State Department is now leading an effort to secure her release. Meanwhile, Griner's pretrial detention has been extended as Russian investigators prepare to present their findings before a judge. While her fate remains uncertain, we do know that as recently as 2018, Russian courts had a conviction rate of over 99%. The charges being brought against Griner carry a sentence of up to 10 years in prison. If you could send a message to Brittany right now, what would you say to her?
Just that, you know, we're praying for you, we love you, stay strong, and that we'll never be able to know what she feels inside, but whenever she does get home, we're going to be here for her, and whatever she needs, we got her.
This is CPAC, the largest annual gathering of conservatives from across the U.S.
2022 will be the year that millions of everyday citizens stand up to the left-wing fascists.
More than a year after Trump lost the election, and with midterms on the horizon, Republicans are looking for inspiration for the future of their party, and an unlikely country has emerged as the epicenter of a new global conservative movement. Hungary.
Here in America, as well as in my beloved country, Hungary, we embrace the true values of our Western civilization, God, our homeland, and the family, the way we have always done before. Protecting the children is what's at stake in the upcoming Hungarian election in early April, where conservatives are led by one of the true champions of